Welcome to my channel. This is the second video in a series around the Boox Go 10.3 e-ink note-taking device. The first video was kind of an unboxing of first impressions. It tended to focus more on the hardware. A little bit of the UI was covered, but this part of the series, the visual tour, will really go into depth around what the device is capable of doing. This really isn't a review. That will come a few videos later. This is really just meant to describe what the functionality of the Go is. Having said that, I will probably sprinkle here and there, fairly infrequently, a couple editorial comments just because the timing of it makes a lot of sense as opposed to later. But for the most part, this is kind of a neutral review, just trying to be descriptive. This is going to be done in two parts just because there's so much material to cover. It's not a comprehensive video, but it is detailed, and it's probably about as detailed as I want to make it. But it still requires me to split that into two videos to make it, in order to keep the file size down, in order to still be detailed around the chapters, because you're limited to how many you can do per video. And there's going to be a lot of chapter headings so that you can quickly go to the information that you're interested in. So this is part A, and then a few days later we'll release part B. In the bigger picture, after this visual tour series is over, then we'll go into the next video, which will start to move more into review territory. We'll share the battery results. We'll kind of show some other miscellaneous things about the device that we won't have covered thus far. And then finally, it all culminates in the actual review, which will probably be about 2 or 2.5 weeks down from the release of this video. So that's coming. But for now, let's just go ahead and walk through the device and get a sense of what the Boox Go is, and how it works. We covered this in the first impressions video, but I just wanted to quickly go through these icons here on the side. The apps icon is pretty obvious. It shows all the applications. This is your app drawer essentially. And if there were more than fit the screen, then it would go on for multiple pages. Just kind of going up, if we go into storage, this is where you can basically see your files. And there's a couple ways to do that. The first way is there are these kind of shortcut buttons. Regardless of where the document resides, if it recognizes the document, you can use the shortcut here to link to that. Same with images. So that's kind of the value of having these shortcut buttons. You don't have to know the folder that the item is in. But if you did want to look something up in its folder, you can click on this big, large rectangle here where it says storage, and that takes you right in to the folder structure. And you can just click on any of the folders to see what's in there. Let's go ahead and go into Books, for example. And you can see we have some EPUBs, a CBR, and a PDF right there. Now, if we go back, there is the ability to kind of search on titles. You can select on recent files there, or again, you can go into the folder structure, which is what we were seeing before. And then over here, you have some statistics. Okay. Then you've got the Notes app. We're going to go in here and take a real deep dive into this, so we'll come back to that. We'll move on then to the store. In the store, basically, I thought you might be able to purchase things, but I think these are all free EPUBs that you can just download. There's quite a bit in here. So if you do decide to download a book, it will actually show up here in the library. And let's go ahead and click on that. And then here's where all the documents that you've either downloaded or somehow brought onto the device that can be read by its Reader app are located here. And you launch the Reader app by clicking on any of these documents. Again, much like Notes, we'll dive pretty deeply into that a little bit later, but for now, here is where that resides. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the settings of the device and what's available there. Up here on top, this is the account, the Boox Cloud account. So I'm logged in, and then it comes with 10 gigabytes of storage, and it's giving you a progress bar of how much of that is used on the cloud services. Then down below, you have this icon of the device and a little bit of information. If I click on this, you do get a whole table of information. I'll go ahead and do that about the device. And it does note what version of Android. You get the little Android head, and this is Android 12. Then if we go down below that, we'll take a look at all the languages that this device supports. And let's go ahead and take a look at those. So 33 languages in all. Just quickly scroll through those. So quite a bit. And then you have a couple different options here as well. We are going to test in the next video using a physical keyboard, but you can use a mouse as well, and those settings are here. If we go to date and time, it's pretty straightforward. As a reminder, you do need to manually set your time zone, even though you automatically set the date and time to update. This is where a lot of the power saving options are. So first off, you have auto sleep. Auto sleep is where either the cover, in fact, there's an option here, sleep or wake up the device using protective cover. So this is on, or if you press the power button, then it goes into a sleep mode. What the sleep mode means is that anytime you can press the power button or open the cover, and in a few seconds, the device is ready to go. That does save some battery power, but it does still continue to drain, more so than if the device was completely powered off, which is the next option. So completely powering off the device pretty much preserves the battery. However, when next time you turn on the device, you have to go through the boot up process. I've timed that, and it's about 35 seconds on this device. In both of these options, you have a number of time intervals that you can use. These are the ones for auto sleep, and for power off, you have a few more. And these are ways to, again, preserve the battery life. There are some additional functionality. For example, if there's a delay in turning off Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or audio, this is good if, for example, you accidentally turned off the device and then you quickly turn it back on. Having this delay means you won't have to try to reconnect on these items. You can show your battery status and value as it appears up here. And then there's some other functionality listed there as well. Networks is pretty straightforward. That's just looking for Wi-Fi networks. Calibration is basically if you don't like the way that if your pen and the writing seems off, then you can use calibration to try to recalibrate it so that it's more connected. Password is, again, only a lock password. There's no fingerprint unlock. It's only a number, or I think you can do text as well. Let's take a quick look at that if we can. Yeah, so you can type in, I guess it's a numeric password, not alpha. Okay. Then you have various accounts that are associated with the device. You have the app accounts, which are related to things that downloaded. In this case, I have Google and Kobo as an example. But you also have the ability to sync files and documents. And if we go into that level of detail, you can see I'm currently connected to Google Drive, but there are a number of services, 11 in total, and they're all listed here that you can connect your device with. Similarly for documents, so for documents, you have a similar list plus one more. I'm not sure which one is the extra one, but the other list had 11, this has 12, but still pretty extensive ability to connect with different accounts. Okay, now you've got the system display, and this is just basically like your general fonts. If any type of global refresh, you can decide when you go to your default, which of these things that you'll go to. I've selected apps. You can also change the order, so I can move apps all the way to the top. Like so. There we go. And if I wanted to go back to the way it was, I can click on that button and reset it accordingly. All right. Let's go into gestures. Now, if you watch the unboxing video, you'll recognize these gestures from the setup process. The difference here is you've got more customization available. So first off, as we saw in the setup, you can either go with gestures from the bottom of the screen or these kind of Android-like navigation options. As it relates to gestures, you have a lot more customization here. So all of these 3 items, whether you're swiping from here, the center, or the right, you can click on this and there are 2 pages of functions that you can have on the device, including none. So for example, if you didn't want 3 things to happen, you only wanted one of these to be active, you would set the other 2 to none, and that would be the purpose of that. Alternately, from using gestures, you can use the navigation bar, and there is the ability to kind of customize an option, but there's not a lot of customization available, but those are your options there. So those are gestures from the bottom. From the side, there's some customization as well. A little bit more limited. Here it's volume, dark color enhancement, or light color filter. And again, with the none, so you can turn these on and only have the left on by making the right say none, so on. And then there are swipe gestures, and those are actually pretty similar to what we saw with the swipe up. So a lot of functionality there. And then finally, there's an ability to do, if you swipe down, it'll do a screenshot automatically. So those are your gestures. Servers, there are 3 servers that Boox uses, and essentially you just want to pick the server you're geographically closest to. Presumably that will have the best responsiveness, so that's all that is. You can do your firmware update here, and I have it set to automatically update, and then you can look at your history. So if we click on that, you might recall I had mentioned in the unboxing video that I had 2 updates. They're listed here, although strangely they're repeated. So the first one's repeated here, and then the second one is repeated there. But anytime you do a system update, you can come back here and take a look at what was changed. And if you wanted to, you can apply for beta testing. We saw earlier the feedback. This is another way to get into that. It was in the swipe down tray, which is right there. So that button also takes you to the same place that you can go to in settings. There is a user manual. This is actually a shortcut to a download. You download it, and then the manual itself will actually show up in your library, and that's the Boox reader. That's the manual for this document. It's a PDF file. Lastly, in terms of settings, there are store settings. Not a lot here. You can't uninstall the store. So in fact, I'm actually not sure what this does. So yeah, so the store is still, the icon remains, but there's nothing in it. I'm not really sure why someone would choose to select that. It doesn't really serve any particular purpose, but it's there if you want it. So that, in a nutshell, is all of the system settings. Okay, let's start looking at the applications that come with the device. And just before we go into specific applications, we'll just look at some of the UI functionality we have over here. You do have the ability to search, so you can search for an app title. If you have more than a few pages of apps, that would probably come in handy. You also have the ability to freeze applications, that is, to prevent them from running in the background and draining battery. If you click on that, there are a number of options. You'll notice that the applications that are listed, which you can select individually, are only applications that are brought onto the device. None of the system apps are here. So in this case, these are the 3 apps I've downloaded from the Google Play Store. But again, no system apps. And here are those options around freezing them. We also have this hamburger that, if we back out here, we can go into app management. There are a lot of options here within app management. Many of the options can be done also within the particular apps, but some of these are global options. So for example, for DPI setting, you can go into each app in the E-Ink Center and set your DPI setting, or you can do it here. And in addition to that, you can obviously change your sorting. You can manage in bulk, which means either putting it into kind of a folder or uninstalling as opposed to just one at a time. You can create a group, again, like a folder. Let's go ahead and do that. Like so. And then I can then add whatever apps I want into that. I'll go ahead and pass. And you can see your folders up there. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this folder. So I'm going to long press it. And then I'm going to disband the group, which will remove the folder. Okay, let's go into the apps now and just take a quick look at what's available. Here we have the AI Assistant app. So if I click on that, what you're basically seeing is just an interface into a GPT model. In this case, it's the Azure GPT-3 model. If I go here on this item and then go to Assistant Settings, you'll notice that's the only model that's currently available in this particular app. You start your conversations here. I happen to be logged in to my Boox account down here. That's what this indicates. I was able to run this query without having been logged in. So it is possible to do queries without creating an account. Then you're typing your query in down here and the results are here. So I did one query where I basically said, give me cat breed summarized, and then it produced this text. I could then copy this text using this icon here. We'll just go ahead and do that. And then I can paste it into another application. So in this case, we'll go into Notes. So I'll just pick a notebook here, and then I'll long press on the screen, and I'll paste the note in. It's going to take a second. It's off center, so I'll just go ahead and click on it. And now I have the ability just to move it over, like so. So that's how you can use the GPT function and interact it with other applications on the device. Let's go back to our apps. And that's pretty much what the App Assistant does. The next application is called Boox Drop, and this you do need an account for. You need a Boox account to utilize this service. What this does is it interacts with either their desktop application or they have a web-based application. Both applications have the same functionality, and it allows you to move files between, say, like a computer or a phone and this device. So we'll go ahead and click on that. It'll give you a code for your web browser. Again, you can also use the desktop application. And again, you can either receive or send files accordingly. You'll also notice that having turned that on, this icon appears. So Boox Drop is active. In order to deactivate it, I have to swipe down and click on this Boox Drop icon. There's also a calculator app, pretty straightforward. So there that is. Calendar Memo has a little bit more going on for it. So it's obviously a calendar, but it also includes any type of notes that you want to write, and it records whatever notes you've gone in the Notebook app and whatever you've read in the Reading app. So you can see here on this particular date, these are the files that I've looked at in the Reading app, and these are the notebooks that I've looked in. And then you can click on it and it will hyperlink to that item. Going back into that, you'll also notice that because I have a written note here, there is a dot indicating that there's a note. If I go to a date that doesn't have a dot, see it's blank, but it does still record automatically whatever notes or reading that I've done. In terms of the memo area itself, it's pretty basic. So if you click on you do have your pen styles, but you don't have any thickness options or any color options. So you literally just have those 5 options. You have a stroke eraser, and that's it. And then you can delete your note. And you do have multiple pages. So it's a pretty basic note-taking app. You can send it to your email using this icon. You can sync it with the Boox Cloud using that icon. And if we click on the hamburger, it's just a way of selecting different years and then doing your overall calendar settings, which are pretty straightforward. Okay. Next up is the clock. Pretty standard. Anybody that has an Android device is pretty familiar with this. It's not only a clock like so, a nice looking little clock, but it's also an alarm, a stopwatch, and a timer. So there's the alarms that you can set. If you click on it, you can pick the days, you can pick the alarm sound, and there's 23 options available. Quickly swipe through those, like so. Okay, and then if you want to put some sort of tag on it to label the alarm. Just stopwatch. So a little choppy. You can set intervals. And of course clear it. And then finally there's a timer. Pretty straightforward. Again, same selection of sounds. If we go back to the clock, if we can actually add different time zones. There. And those are your clock options that are available to you. Okay. You can load various dictionaries. By default, there are no dictionaries loaded onto the device. And those are your options for the dictionary. Let's go ahead and click on Dictionary Downloads. And those are some that are available fairly easily. We'll go ahead and download this English dictionary. And here we go. It's downloading fairly quickly. And should be done in just a couple seconds. All right, there we go. Now, of course, you can delete the dictionary if you'd like. Okay, back to apps. There's a gallery. This is just where all your images are available for viewing. And you just have a couple basic options there. Help Center takes you to a web page. This is actually their internet page. So if you went onto Boox.com, and then you can find this page. And it's basically a generic, searchable database of help items. So it's not specific to this device. So you can see, for example, Mira Pro stand assembling instruction is obviously not relevant. So it's just a general help center. Kobo I downloaded, so let's go ahead and go to the music player. I don't have any music on the device. If I did, it would be here, and then you can just play those files. The nav ball is interesting, so if you click on it, before we go into these settings, let's go ahead and just turn it on, and let's see this in action. So here's the ball itself. You can move it around, so if I hold on to it, I can drag it around like so, wherever I want. Let's just put it in the center here. And if I click on it, you have just a bunch of shortcuts. One of those is this little icon here, which allows me to mount the ball on the side of the screen. It'll either mount on this side or on this side, depending on where it's closest. So because the ball is closer to here, it'll mount right here, like so. And then if you want to bring back the ball, you just click on that, like so. So one item is you can refresh the screen using the nav ball. Now if we go back into the app, there's a ton of customization available. So obviously, enabling the ball to begin with was by clicking on that. We can change the way the button styles works. Right, so let's go horizontally, for example. And it would look like that. You've got some options here. So pretty flexible, but even more so is the actual buttons that appear. So you can completely customize these. So if I click on any of these, I can click on this, and you can see there's 28 possible shortcuts that you can put in there. There's 3 pages worth. Let's flip through that. So just a lot that's available, including none. So you could even go in and make it look a little less cluttered. Like so. See, so now there's fewer buttons available. If I feel like, I made changes I didn't want to make, I want to go back, you can always press the reset button. And they're all back. So pretty powerful. So going back to the apps, we do have just a basic browser. Not much to say about this. Just go ahead and type in ESPN. Oops. So there you go. Okay, again, I downloaded news. Play Store is available on the device, but you do have to log in. Push to Read is the next system app. And basically, this is using that Boox account, and it allows you a number of things. So, for example, you can subscribe to an RRS feed. Here, I have BBC News. So this is automatically updating. You can also push web pages onto your device. So I've done that in a couple cases here. And essentially how that works is you go into your web browser, you have to install the extension, and it's called Send to Boox or something along like that. And then once you get logged in under the same account you're logged in on the device, then you can press a button when you're on a particular web page and send it to the device. And as long as the device is on Wi-Fi, it appears almost instantly. So it's pretty cool. If you want to select any favorites, then you just click on the star and it would show up on your favorites list. And then you have some filter options there as well. Okay, there's also a recorder. This is pretty straightforward. Basically, I'm just going to press the play button. Hey Jeff, I'm just recording an audio for this video. Click stop. Okay, and we'll click on this button. And let's see, what's our latest one? It's this guy. Let's click on this. This is an MP3 file. Hey Jeff, I'm just recording an audio for this video. Okay, pretty straightforward. Okay, the last application, because YouTube is something I installed, is a screensaver option. The screensaver is what the screen looks like when you go into a sleep or power off mode. So if I'm going to press the power button to go into sleep mode, and that is the screensaver. So you have ways of customizing it. So if you click on that app, there are a number of presets. So we have, for example, this kind of dark image of the time and calendar. It also has the battery percentage there. And you'll notice there are also toggles on each of these presets. So they are highly customizable. There's the one we just saw. Again, I can completely replace that image with an image of my own. I can add a clock and so on. Here's another one. Here's a more digital one. And then when you're powered off completely, so this is more like what's in sleep mode, and this is when you're completely powered off, then you have not as many options, but a few options there as well. And that basically is the overview of all the system apps on this device. Okay, let's turn our attention to this top bar. And we'll start over here on the left. You can see there's the time. And if there's any type of notifications, they'll show up as little icons above here. So we can just swipe down and we can read them and clear them out using the trash icon there. On the right side, there's a couple indicators. If you have anything active, in this case, like we have Wi-Fi, for example, it'll show there. Bluetooth will show there, a couple other things as well. And then you have the battery and battery percentage Now, you can swipe down or touch on these icons in order to get this drop-down bar. And this is your control center, and these are a lot of shortcuts to various features. Let's kind of just take it from the top. So if I click on this little pen icon, like so, then what you get is you can totally customize what buttons show up in the tray. So you can literally have like none or all. The default is everything shows up except for quick share, which is not included for some strange reason. If anytime you want to go to default, you can do that by clicking on this reset button. So you can see it put quick share there. Let's go ahead and drag that on back, like so. Okay, so the first toggles you have is around Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. If it's mostly black background, then it's active, and if it's white, it's inactive. Just taking it from the top through these kind of shortcut buttons, if we start with the E-Ink Center, this is where you have a number of configurations to change how things behave on the screen. And the E-Ink Center works both, right now we're just in the system in general, but we can also go into each individual app and toggle these things as well. It will just start up here with these two sliders, the first being dark color enhancement. And just take a look at this Kobo Boox app. Look at both the icon as well as the text. I'm going to turn the color enhancement down to 0. You can see how much that changed. It made it lighter. And if we take it all the way to the top, so it looks like that. If we do the light color filter all the way to the top, you don't notice any difference, but if we bring the dark color enhancement down, it's quite a bit different. Let me go ahead and again scroll that to the bottom. So you can see how that's basically affecting the image. And then you can always reset to go back to where you started. If we go down here below, you'll notice that there's different refresh modes. There's 4 of them listed currently. Sometimes you'll see a 5th, which is called Regal. Now, if you go by the text that they display here, you would use normal for basically just text reading. Speed would be more for images and text. A2 for kind of scrolling images with text. Think of like a Google News or social media apps where there's a lot of scrolling. And then X is supposed to be for playing videos. Regal is kind of like normal, but it flashes a little bit more and refreshes the page more, so that once it settles, you have a cleaner screen as a result. Now that's what the device says these modes are good for. But in reality, your experience will vary. So I'll give you an example. With the Kobo app, you would expect normal to be the best option because that's what's good for text reading. But I actually found that I preferred speed in Kobo. I just like the way it looked and I like the effect of it. So unfortunately, if you're trying to find the optimal refresh mode, you can start with the descriptions, but there is a little bit of trial and error in testing them out. Let's go ahead and click on this More button here. There are some additional features here, which I won't go into, but you have a page here under Normal, which is relevant to the Normal and Regal settings. And then for Balanced, you have this slider, which is relative or relevant to the Balance, Fast, and X settings only. And again, you just have to kind of play with it to see what the impact of those are and if it's something that's helpful in the particular app that you're looking at. Let's go back into the E-Ink Center because there's one other thing that we have. Oh, actually, let's hit on this nut first. And what you can see is that you've got all the different apps listed and what their current refresh mode is listed as. So again, I had mentioned with Kobo, I like to use speed, and there that is. You can make these changes within the apps as well by going into the app and into the E-Ink Center, but this does allow you to look at that globally. You can also globally make changes using this checkmark box. Let's go back here and go back into the E-Ink Center. I think I accidentally put it on X. Let's look at this Optimize icon. Now, right now I'm in the system settings, so I don't think it's going to work. But if I went into a particular app, we'll go ahead and go into Google News as an example. then that functionality would become available. So we'll go ahead and select that. And there's a number of things you can look at. This is the Others tab. Here's the Color tab. Let me refresh that screen. Whoops. Okay, forget it. And then we'll go to Display. And I find that this DPI setting makes a huge difference. So let's take a look at that at its extreme. I can default to using the app's original DPI, which I think will come in around 300 if I remember right. It's hard to say because it's not indicating it there. But let's go ahead all the way to the extreme. So you can see how large the text is. Let's go the other direction. Very tiny, right? So that's one of the sliders. It's really obvious what it does. And I find I use the DPI settings a lot because I like, in this particular app, for example, I like to have that text just a little bit larger. Okay. You do have the ability to basically take off app optimization by killing that master switch. When you do that, you'll notice that the app doesn't have an icon in the lower corner. Let's go ahead and turn that back on. Oops, I gotta go into the app and turn it back on. Like so. And then we notice that the icon is there. Not sure what the value of the icon is. That's new. Previously, Boox allowed customization but didn't have the icon. So if anybody has any thoughts on why that's a useful feature, let me know. It doesn't bother me that it's there. I'm just not sure why that's helpful. So that's basically what the E-Ink Center does. Let's keep going through the other shortcuts. Rotation is pretty straightforward, and you have a number of options, as always with Boox. You can go ahead and go auto-rotate, where it uses the G sensor to orient it in one of the 4 potential directions based on how you're holding the device. You can auto-rotate only vertically or only horizontally, or you can just do a manual one, and the top of the T would be the top of the screen. So if I wanted to flip this and have the top of my screen down here, then I would click on that T right there. Okay, you do have a screen mirroring, which is pretty cool. So screen mirroring basically allows you to take what's on your screen and mirror it onto any device, a computer, a phone, anything that has a web app where you can enter your URL. So I'm going to go ahead and start now, and it gives you instructions. It reminds you what Wi-Fi network you're on, because the other device needs to be on that same Wi-Fi network. And or alternately, it gives you this QR code and this URL. Let's take a look at this in action. Okay, so now I've connected my phone. You can see that there, and it's basically mirroring the screen. Let's go ahead and go into just the app screen. And what you'll notice is, first off, it refreshed fairly quickly. I'm going to go ahead and swipe down the tray and see how quickly it shows up on the phone. Almost instantaneously. But you also notice that we now introduce color. So this Kobo, which is here in grayscale, is now here in its natural color of red. Same with YouTube. You can see color here in the Google News app. So that's one of the cool things about the screen mirroring functionality. One thing to note, particularly for those of you who are used to SuperNote's similar functionality, there is one critical difference that the SuperNote has that this device doesn't. With the SuperNote, you can take your stylus and hover it next to the screen, not touching, and you can see a circle. So it's a pointer, and that shows up on the device that you're casting to. That's not available here. I actually considered doing this video using the screen mirroring, but when I found out there's no pointer option, it makes it really hard to do this video. So I went ahead with the traditional camera view. But if the pointer isn't an option, this is a pretty cool feature to use. We'll go ahead and turn that off. There's an AI assistant button, and this is really just a shortcut to the app. It literally does nothing else but goes straight into the app. You can provide feedback to Boox. You can type in a description, and then you can also do an attachment if that's helpful and send it. This device will remember, at least for the last 90 days, what your feedback history is. And it also has an FAQ just in case your question might be answered here. They've got some common problems listed. So for example, if we click on the notes problem, you can see the number of topics they have listed there. Now there's another feature here called FreeMark. I think this is new to Boox. And basically this is very similar to the functionality that BigMe has called continuous note-taking. And continuous note-taking has 3 different options. FreeMark is very similar to the screenshot option. So let's go ahead and click on that and see that in action. You can save it. We'll just go ahead with the default name, but it's going to save whatever I create in this file under that file name, or that folder rather, under that file name. And here I can go ahead and write, and you do have a number of options in terms of the pen styles and the weight. So here I'm going to go ahead and pick the ballpoint pen. I'm going to write in red. Red will just show up as grayscale on this screen, but if I were to export it, then of course you would see the red, and of course you have your line width. So hello there. And then you can save it, and it'll save into that location that we saw earlier. You can deactivate the pen tray, so you can use swipe gestures with your stylus. See, like so, and it won't write. You can also hide this tray, and it becomes this icon. And then you have this hamburger over here. You can go view what you've created, you can share it, and it reminds you of the path. Let's go ahead and take a look at what they call a scribble. There it is. There's a kids mode. You do need to have a different account in order for that to be active, which I don't have. There's a toggle here for the Naviball. And we went over the Naviball in the app section, so if you want to look at those details. But what this toggle does basically is it turns it on and turns it off. So we click on that, there's the ball, and if we click it off, it goes away. There's an option here for Boox Drop. We also covered this in the app section. This is where you can just turn it on or off by toggling. You do have split screen options. Let's go ahead and click on that. Some apps don't allow for split screen, so it depends. But if you're in an app that does, you can either go horizontal or vertical. We'll go vertical. Okay. And there's a number of, so you've got the app that we started with up here. Down below, we have a few options. I can either open up a book in the Reader app, I can go into the Notes app, or I can go into any type of application on the device that allows for split screen, and there are 13 of them in addition to the one we already have. You can drag this to either make one side of the equation bigger and the other side smaller. So a little bit of functionality there. And it's all available here in split screen. You have the ability to do a screenshot. Let's go ahead and just do one of those. So there's a little sound that hopefully you heard, and then it pulls up this screen. I can go ahead and crop it by dragging in any one of the sidebars. You can do editing, and there's a number of writing tools. You can convert to handwriting or OCR, convert it to a PDF, or just accept it as an image. I believe the image comes out as a JPEG, but let's take a look. If we go into storage and images, and where did it go? You see, yeah, this is a PNG file. So yeah, those come in PNGs. Scribbling is a JPEG. Okay, you can just do a full refresh from here, like so. Go to the next page. There's a screen recorder. That's pretty much what it sounds like. When you activate it, it's basically recording whatever's happening on the screen, and then it saves it as as I believe it saves it as an MP4 file, but let's take a look to validate that. Under video, yes. So these are some previous screen recordings. Those are MP4s. If you're having issues with accidentally hitting touch controls and you want to shut those off, and you have a toggle here that can turn those off or turn those back on. You can mute notifications or go into Do Not Disturb mode here, turn on or off location from there. You can actually use your device as a hotspot, oddly enough. This is an Android option of quick sharing files, so it's the exact same option as you have in an Android device, and it uses Bluetooth to do that. You have airplane mode, and finally you have screencast. Now screencast is very similar to what we saw in terms of screen mirroring. The difference is that screen mirroring goes to a device that's on the same Wi-Fi network, and you go into your web browser and type in a URL. In screencast, instead of going to a web browser, you're casting to a particular device like a Chromecast, for example, or the Google Pixel tablet. Those are examples of devices that you can cast to, and it will have the similar effect that we saw with the screen mirroring. The last thing on this menu, of course, is the slider for general audio sound. And then there's much more detail behind that. If we click on the speaker, we can, and this is obviously very similar to the Android interface, where you can do the different audio types with different volumes. You can do Not Disturb here. And then there's just some other options here as well. So that in totality are all the shortcuts that are available in the drop-down bar. Okay, so that concludes the first half of the visual tour. In the next half, we'll go over other aspects of the system. So if there are any particular questions you had about the material covered in this video, please pop those in the comments and I'll try to answer those as best I can. Maybe there's some areas you want to go a little bit deeper, just ask me about it and I'll see what I can do. But in the meantime, we do have the second half of the visual tour coming. We have the video around the battery life and then the eventual review. So be sure to subscribe so you can see those videos when they come out. All right, have a great day.